Right, multipliers. These are something that are often lost in translation, just because technically everything in this game is a multiplier, but what do we mean by actual multipliers? To show this, I'm going to be using that number, 17,587,830, as my base. It's technically not my base, I have a lot of headshot damage, and I'm also using Dodge City holster. Now, for the next showing of the number, I won't lie, I have no idea how this works. I've tried asking varying different people. From what I can understand, it multiplies this number, which is the damage you've seen in your stat screen, by your headshot damage, and then the rest of the equation, starting from total weapon damage going along, acts as normal. This is the Achilles pulse. I probably have got that wrong. I'm probably going to get a very angry message from Hutchler and a few other people saying I'm an idiot. But adding in Achilles pulse, I get 19,780,298. We're now going to add in ongoing directive, which is, don't worry about the damage I was just doing there. That was just me trying to get the actual ongoing directive buff on my bullets. Now, ongoing directive is a 25% multiplier. That being said, due to the way in which multipliers actually work, especially I believe the terminology is unique multipliers, you're not going to get 25%, you're going to get a good amount more than that, which will hopefully show here. So our last hit was 19.7 mil. That was 70,501,344. That is not a 25% increase. So what else is going on? We'll get to that in a little bit, but first we just need to do just a tad more testing. So the next one is going to be Sledgehammer, which we're going to add to it. Now, Sledgehammer itself is a 40% multiplier, or 0.4, depending on how you actually want to look into these things. So we're just going to apply Sledgehammer. There we are, pulse and pop. That gave us 107,763,648. That was not a 40% increase. So what is actually going on? Well, like I said, we're going to get to it in a minute, but we've still got a little bit more testing to do just to clarify my overall point. And that is, multipliers don't actually give you what they say on the tin. They will if you have literally nothing else going on. But the moment you start adding different multipliers in, that's when we're actually able to hit ridiculous numbers. So now we're adding opportunistic in. 123,778,744. It does get a tad ridiculous. Now, what exactly is going on? Well, it's quite simple. Multipliers multiply. Like, there's nothing more really to it in a very short answer. Just to hopefully give you a grasp of what just happened here, my base, as you can see, was 17.5 mil. Then adding in Achilles was 19.7, ongoing directive was 70.5, Sledgehammer was 107.7, and opportunistic was 123.7. Now the percent per last is the increase per interval, so the increase from base to Achilles was 12, don't worry about the 100 part, was 12.47. Adding in ongoing directive, this gave us 136.42. Adding in sledge, this was a 52.9% increase, and adding in opportunistic, that was a 14.83. The one where it's percent from base, that's the increase it is from the base value. So again, with base to Achilles, it's a 12.47. Ongoing directive to base is 385% increase. Sledgehammer is 512.89, and with opportunistic involved, it's 603.77% increase. we can go a lot higher. This is just with one person's buffs as well. So what does this all mean? Well, it quite simply means that different talents on your backpacks and chest and different buffs you have around you will affect your damage in different ways. It's not quite as clear cut as a lot of people want to make it out, and it will end up being quite convoluted. One of the favourite ones that I have at the moment is when Heartbreaker came out, everyone was going, oh, Spotter and Flatline, it's a 30% increase. Oh, no. Just working off base Spotter and base Flatline, that is 1.15 times 1.15, which is equal to 1.3225. That's a 32.25% damage increase. Oh, well, who cares? It's only 2.25% off. 30% is good enough, yes, but the moment we add in things like Detox, say you're just running Foxes and have damage to targets out of cover on your weapon, that's 18% essentially. We're now at 56.05. This, again, doesn't seem like a lot because 30 plus 18, you know, that's 48. But we've gone from being 2% off to now being 8% off. What happens when we add in damage to armor? That would put us now at a 68.53% damage increase, but if we look at the difference between what is suggested, it would only be 56, which means we now have a damage layoff of, or a difference of 12%, over 12%, 12.5. This adds up continually. Could we do the same thing? We'd start adding in total weapon damage or crit damage or headshots. It all eventually adds up, so that if you don't understand where your multipliers are coming from, and people that are going, oh yeah, just like Flatline, it's only 15%. Yes, if you have literally nothing else going on. Like if you have a full blue build, armor regen rolls everywhere, you're not running Spotter, you're running Tardigrade or something, but you've got Flatline in your weapon and you happen to pulse a target and then you shoot them in the head, that is the only time that you will see that Flatline will give, just as it says, 15%. As soon as you start adding in anything else, total weapon damage, crit damage, headshot, damage to armor, damage to health, damage to targets out of cover, or anything else that can amplify or increase your damage, Flatline will not give you 15%. It will give you more than that. Sometimes it's not a lot more than that. Sometimes it'll be like 15.1 or 15.2 or whatever, but it will give you more. Now for my next show and tell, I am just relying on chest and backpack talents, but hopefully this will give you a greater insight. This is what I've got. Now, I am aware there are things like Perfect Spark and Perfect Overwatch, but the value in which they increase your damage are the exact same. The only difference between Perfect Spark and Normal Spark is Normal Spark lasts 15 seconds where Perfect Spark lasts 20 seconds. The value of the damage increase remains at 15. So if you're looking at this going, well hang on, where's Perfect Spark on this list? Because there is a Perfect Spark, you are correct. It's just because the value is the same. That's all it is. Okay? So we have Focus 50 and Perfect at 60, Spark is at 15, Obliterate at 25, Headhunter I'm kind of leaving out, just putting it in there just to sort of be like, I know it exists, but don't worry. Overwatch is 12, Glass Cannon is 25, and then Perfect is 30, Spotter is 15, and then Perfect is 20, Intimidate is 40.71 at max stacks, and Perfect Intimidate is 47.74 at max stacks. Vigilance 25, Versatile is 3-way, it's kind of annoying. So it will give 35 to enemies within 15 meters for shotguns and SMGs, 35 to enemies further than 25 meters for rifles and MMRs, and 10% to enemies between 25 and 15 meters for LMGs and assault rifle. Now, why are these color coded? Red and green. Like I said, we're going to ignore Headhunter for now. Quite simply, If your build is just made up of green talents for the purpose of this, their multipliers will add together to give you a brand new multiplier. For example, Obliterate plus Vigilance, that's 25, plus 25, that's a total of a 50% multiplier, or 0.5 multiplier. Overwatch plus Wicked, this is now 30%. Focus plus Vigilance is now 75%, or 85. However, the moment you add a red talent to it, it can be two reds, it can be a red and a green, it doesn't matter. This will multiply. For example, a good way to show this is Glass Cannon versus Obliterate with Vigilance. Obliterate with Vigilance will add together. This will give you 50%. However, Glass Cannon will do 1.25 times 1.25, which gives you a lovely total of 56.25. So it's gone up essentially 6.25%. Now, if you are wanting to calculate how much multiplicative damage is on your build, this is a base formula in which you would use. So 1 plus 0 and then multiplier times 1 plus 0 point. What your multiplier is will give you y, and then you do y minus 1. For an example, here's one I wrote earlier. We have 1 plus 0.25 times 1 plus 0.25. This will give you 1.5625. This should look familiar. 1.5625 minus 1 equals 0.5625. That is a 56.25% multiplicative amplifier on your damage. It does take a little bit of practice, and you might notice that a lot of my equations, like the one I did earlier, I just did 1.25 times 1.25. It is good practice to get into doing 1 plus 0.25, because if you ever do get confused in where all your multipliers are coming from, and typically when you do start playing in a team and you're wanting to calculate where XYZ damage is coming from, if you don't do it 1 plus 0.xyz, you can get a little bit lost in translation and not quite sure what that one will end up being, because eventually your numbers will breach over that 1 mark, essentially giving you 2.5625, for example. Now, all of this boils down to one simple fact. The more multipliers you have, the more damage you're actually able to output. If you focus too much on a singular multiplier, trying to be like, oh my god, I need all of the critical hit damage, which I've covered before, in order to make up for a standard DPS build, you needed over 400% critical hit damage, just because you're over relying on one single multiplier, and that's only going to affect approximately 50 to 60% of your damage output. So if you're able to get more multipliers that affect more of your damage in varying different ways, you are far better off in your build. In short, just because you've got 200 or 300 or sometimes even 400 critical hit damage doesn't actually mean you're going to be doing that much. Adding in things like damage to targets out of cover, damage to armor, damage to health, Obliterate, varying other multipliers, whether they add together or multiply together, will give you a better outcome in your build. This is just by and by kind of established at this point. However, I am constantly surprised by the amount of people that get stuck in this weird trap of crit is all. It's really not. Crit is a very good multiplier, as is headshot, and they are probably one of the easiest multipliers to actually stack into your build. However, adding versatility into those multipliers will give you more. It's not Diablo or Warframe. We're not rocking like 230% critical hit chance and 500% critical hit damage on a regular basis to ensure we always crit or double crit. We are kind of in a balanced way, capped at the maximum output we're able to get on average. We are able to go across and breach into the billions, but these are generally set up teams worth of buffs, multipliers, as well as typically a single use, or at least a single use onto a cooldown. Anyway, that just about brings this video to a close. I'm sorry it was so long. It's just, I kind of feel like multipliers are a thing that people get confused by. Certainly I did, Ask Dispatch and Hutchler and Rez, Frost, pretty much everyone else. Yeah, that just about does it. Hopefully this has cleared up a few things on just where some of your damage numbers are actually coming from, and has helped you out. In the meantime, have fun, good luck, don't die. It's bad for the health.